And now to talk about how a big difference can be made by just a small tweak, please welcome Yonatan Dubinsky.
Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Yonatan. I'm a UX expert here in XDC, and I'm going to tell you a few stories about design tweaks that made millions. I'm going to start with the first one, which is the most famous one. It is called the $300 million button. It all started around the year of 2008. Once upon a time, a major e-commerce website hired the services of a UX design agency. Who exactly is that website? We're not today. Some say it's Amazon, other Best Buy. You can try and guess for yourself. So what happened was that the UX people performed a usability testing on that website. In usability testing, the UX people actually sits and observe the user performs different tasks on the website. It's highly productive and highly recommended. And what they discovered was that a lot of users had trouble in logging in. Many of them didn't remember their password. Some of them were not sure if they even have an account. You have to understand the context. Users are adding items to their shopping cart in that e-commerce website, and then they click the checkout button. They have to authenticate in order to complete the purchase. And this friction was a problem. So the UX people asked the local analytics team of that website several questions. In order to explain what they discovered, which was quite interesting, let's assume that 100 people arrived at this area. So the UX people asked the analytics team the first question, which is, how many users clicked the reset password link? Right? This is a highly important indication to the amount of people that actually succeed in authenticating. The answer was 40 users. That's a lot. That's almost half of the people that can't succeed in logging in correctly. Then the UX people decided to focus on those 40 people and understand what happened to them after they click that link. They asked the following question. How many users reset their password through the email, right? When you click a reset password link, you receive an email. You're supposed to go to that email and click reset password over there. The answer was 10 users, okay? And then the UX people asked the most important question of all. How many users actually resetted their password, came back to the website, log in, and finished their purchase? 2 users, okay? So what do we understand from that? We understand that there's a huge abandonment of users which click the reset password link. I mean, that's a big problem for a company like Amazon or Best Buy. That is a lot of money that they lose all the time. So the UX people thought, how can we solve this issue? And they thought of an interesting solution. They thought of a way to bypass the user needs to actually click that link. They decided to frame the existing login area as an existing customer's login. And they actually invented a new button, a new UI component, which they call the guest checkout. So the way the guest checkout works is that when a user clicks continue as guest, he actually performs all the actions that he will perform if he'll click the register button, only in a one-time manner. The user will enter all the details, the system will not save it, and he will be able to complete the purchase. This change alone had a huge impact on the revenue of the company. How big? A 6 million increase in revenue was discovered immediately per week. Hence the name of that use case, the $300 million button. The amount of clicks on the reset password link was decreased in 80%, and actually from the year 2008, it became a best practice. All the major players in the e-commerce industry implement this methodology. eBay, Macy's, in the Apple website, there's also a returning customers area, a guest checkout area, and here in XDC, we try to implement best practices from the industry. We also implemented this this ID in a joint project we did with car manufacturers, which involved the Internet of Things. And in here you can see that there's a login for existing customers and continue to check out button. So what do we learn from this use case? If we'll allow UX experts to review the complete user journey with a one-on-one usability testing, this thing alone can have tremendous value for the organization and for the business in order to perform tiny design tweaks and actually make such an impact. We have to do in-depth research. I want to tell you about another story. Let's talk about tips and how the tip jar went digital. So usually when you go into a coffee place, a bar, or anywhere with service providers and a cashier, you can select whether or not you would like to tip. Square tried to change all that. Square is a mobile payment company, which one of its top products is the Square Registry. So the Square Registry is a tablet-based registry. It replaces the existing registry in small businesses, mainly in cafes. So how does it work? The service provider, right, the cashier or the waiter, enters the items that the customer would like to purchase and then turns the device to the customer so he will sign. The screen that the customer views is this one. Then they're supposed to sign and select whether or not they would like to tip. The default selection in this screen, as you can see, is no tip. Square added a very interesting option in the setting menu. They call it the separate tipping screen. So this interface displays how the screen will look if this setting switches to off. If we turn it on, the tipping disappears and it moves to another screen. So once the customer signs, click Done Signing, this screen appears. Okay, this is the separate tipping screen. And the main call to action in this screen, as you can see, is tip. And please tip generously. Right? If you don't want to tip, you have to click below the no tip option and feel quite shameful, especially if some people are standing behind you in the line. So this design had a huge impact on the business of small businesses and coffee places, right? Tips skyrocket in New York City Cafe because of how Square designs its register. Who were the main beneficiaries of this design tweak? Mostly people who live on tips or small business owners. So we can think that this is actually a great thing, right? They get more tips. However, there's been some harsh criticism on this design. They say that Square is actually guilting us into tipping basically everyone on anything and too much. And they're quite right. I mean, this design uses several psychology hacks in order to manipulate us, and it is some sort of a shady design pattern. However, it works. So what did we learn? Sometimes, if we're adding clicks for the user, we can actually make a big difference on the user experience and perhaps on the whole business model of the product, right? Because what happened here was a bit counterintuitive. They decided to add a screen to prolong the experience. So that's an interesting idea. I want to tell you about a project who implemented that concept, and which we did here in XDC, an image bank. So an image bank is a website which its goal is to allow users to select beautiful pictures, right? The main call to action of this image bank is the search field at the top. So once the user clicks the search field and starts typing, a cloud tag appears. What is that cloud tag? Each tag represents many pictures that are connected to it. So the user at this stage suddenly is being a bit conflicted, right? He can select whether or not to search or to add additional tags. So if the user will select to add additional tags, we can actually provide greater value. And that is actually what we try to do here, to prolong the experience in order to enrich the value which the user will receive in the end. So I want to summarize. From the 300 million button story, we learned that usability testing can have tremendous value. From the Square Registry use case, sometimes adding clicks can increase business revenue. And from the image bank, we just saw prolonging the journey can also enrich it. Thank you very much.